Hi team, so I'm gonna show my face for this one. This is probably the first time I've done this for this class, so I'm feeling pretty good today, so I'm gonna show myself. So we're gonna talk about engineering overview. This is gonna be a quick one because the engineering disciplines is gonna be a little longer. So the big point of this one is, what do engineers do? What does it mean to be an engineer? A lot of you are taking this class having some kind of preconceived idea of what an engineer does. And the goal of these next two videos is to give you a better idea of what the profession really looks like. So let's first define it. Engineering is the application of mathematics and scientific principles to better improve life. The way I always thought about engineering is we use these skills like our science classes, like our bio, our chemistry, our physics classes. We use our integrated classes like geometry, algebra, calculus, and we take those skills and we look to solve problems. But we solve problems with a purpose in order to improve lives. Engineers, when I say I'm an engineer, is a person who is trained in and uses technological and scientific knowledge to solve practical problems. So we're the problem solvers of the world. No better way to put it, but we're the problem solvers of the world, but we're using technology and scientific knowledge to achieve those solutions. So there's a lot of websites where you can learn more about it if you're interested. There's a couple. But what do engineers do? We research, we develop, we design, we supervise, and we manage. It's possible to do all 5 of these in one job, but really you can kind of pick and choose. Some people go into research. Some people go into development. That's R&D, research and development. Some people design, meaning they're actually the ones making blueprints. They're the ones designing houses or mechanical equipment or bridges or whatever it be. Some people supervise, meaning they more oversee other folks that are doing those types of things, and some people manage, meaning they are in a management position where they still supervise. It's kind of the same thing, but instead they might be managing budget, schedule, so forth. That's what I did. So in person, I'll go into a little more detail about that was my role. But I have friends that design, I have friends that research, develop, and supervise. So I know people in all the fields. If you're researching, again, this is the goal is to, you're basically taking what you learn and you're trying to either improve or, so we would innovate or invent new products. So you might be working for like an Intel facility and trying to better the tools that make the chips. You might be working for a Tesla and seeing how you can make the batteries last longer. How the car can go faster. You might be working for a structural engineer and trying to find new concrete mixes in order to make concrete lighter but stronger, those types of things. When you go into development, this is the actual construction of that material. So it's kind of like, hey, a researcher is going to try to research this stuff. A developer is going to actually make it. So they're going to be the ones. So developers are going to be in the labs. They're going to be using a lot of machine equipment. So they're not doing as much calculation. More they're following the kind of steps that a researcher developed. So a researcher would say, okay, I'm going to make the recipe, but you're going to bake it. Okay, so it's kind of that type of thing. It doesn't mean that they don't have knowledge in these things. I mean, a lot of these folks are just as knowledgeable, but maybe they're not doing the research behind it. They're more designing it after it's already been created. A designer itself, this is a great example of it. They're going to go ahead and on this picture right here, we're seeing they're actually using sketches in order to convey information. So one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to try to think of all the potential issues that could occur with something. So they're going to design a product. So they're going to anticipate all manner of problems that a user may create in an application of a machine or use of a structure. So they're actually going to create the actual plans for how a product is going to be made, but they're also going to take into account all the potential issues that could occur with it. Okay. If you supervise, you're going to be more closely related to people that are hands-on, and so you're going to be possibly out on the field, looking over people who are building a structure, or possibly those developers. You're going to be supervising them to make sure they're following the plans that the researcher created appropriately. Okay? You should be pretty knowledgeable in that field that you're supervising, because you want to catch what's good and bad about it. So if I'm out on the field and I'm supervising the field work, I should be pretty knowledgeable in terms of construction to ensure that I know the proper way in which construction workers should be installing something. So you're going to want to have a lot of knowledge in the technical skills. Projection and construction. So this is what I was more. This is more the management side. So as a project engineer, this is actually what my title was before. What I used to do is, again, I have understanding of how a project would be built, but I more specifically was on site and managed the budget, the schedule, and also any kind of questions between the folks building it and the designer of the actual building. You could work in an operation or plant. You know, there's a lot of different roles. You can read all those. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. Just realize that you can work at a plant. You can go into sales. I mean, it's crazy to think of, but you might be a salesman for some technical equipment. So maybe someone designed in your company is an air handler unit company. So you're going to be selling air handler units, and you want to have some technical background when they ask these questions. So how much air does it push out? What kind of CFUs do I get? What kind of, you know, how much voltage does it require to power? You know, all those types of things. You want to have some technical knowledge if you're trying to sell the product to a company. The management, like I said, this is more specifically what I went into. You know, you oversee financial assets, the labor force. So again, this is overseeing maybe construction work. You might be seeing the budget. You might be seeing the schedule. Okay. You know, in kind of simple ways to put it, I think this is the main one. You're concerned with long-term effects of policy decisions, including financial, legal, and labor aspects. So I would be concerned if, you know, making sure that, you know, my company was following proper legal protocol, and that if someone got injured on the project, that we were insured and that we knew how to handle the situation properly.